Hey everyone, this is Armand, the creator of ChartLogic. Welcome to ChartLogic 104, Variable Conditions. In the last lesson we learned about variables. Now we're going to learn all of the things you can do with them using the variable condition. If you're ready to get logical, then let's get started. Here's where we are in the ChartLogic course. The variable condition provides many features for working with variables and values. Let's take a quick tour. Using the variable condition dialog, you can set a new named variable. You can perform comparisons of values or variables. You can test whether a variable is set or not set. You can create datetime variables with datetime functions. You can extract integer values from datetime variables, and you can create datetime variables by performing variable substitutions to a datetime string. You can also perform mathematical operations using both unary and binary operators, and you have access to a wide range of market data. That is a lot of functionality built into one small dialog. Let's see how each of these features works. Before we start with the features, let's take a look at this dialog. Like most dialogs that let you set a variable, there's a row for the variable name and a button to toggle between local and global variables. Next is a row for setting the data type with a select list for the data type. When the type is double, then you can also set the precision. The next row lets you define the expression. There's a left-hand side and a right-hand side. In between them is the op button, where you would select either a comparison or operator, depending upon other settings in the dialog. To create a named variable, you provide a variable name, select the data type from the data type list, and then either type in a value or pick a variable from the select list. The op field is set to assign, in this case, represented by the equal sign. There is something a bit tricky to know if you want to create a Boolean variable. Once you select a data type of Boolean, the op button changes to a list where you select a comparison operator. If you want to create a named variable of a Boolean type, then set the op button to the assign operator first, and then change the data type to Boolean. Don't click the op button again, or else you'll be forced to select a comparison operator, and you won't get the assignment operator that you need to create the variable. To perform a comparison between two values or variables, select a data type of Boolean, and then either type in a value or select a variable from both the left-hand side and the right-hand side. The op button lets you select from the available comparison operators. Those last two comparison operators are unique to the variable condition dialog. The set or not set test is a unary test, meaning that it applies to only one variable. In this case, you will only be selecting a value for the right-hand side. If you type in a value instead or use the left-hand side, then the condition will have no effect and it will evaluate as false. The set test, represented by the question mark, returns true if the variable that you select in the list exists in the variable space when this condition is run. The not set test, represented by the exclamation point and question mark, returns true if the variable you select in the list does not exist in the variable space when this condition is run. These exist, not exist tests are really useful when you're building complex logic that is setting variables, and the execution of certain conditions depends upon whether a variable is set or not. If you're using a named variable as part of some conditions logic, you can usually get by without testing for the existence of the variable first. Your condition is already going to evaluate as false if it can't get that variable's data. This is more for cases where you're not necessarily using the value in a condition, you just want to know whether it exists or not. There are a number of built-in functions within MQL4 for returning different kinds of datetime values. To access these functions, select the datetime as your data type and assign as your operator. The pick list on the right-hand side, which usually contains variable names, now contains this list of functions for you to choose from. The idea is that you would create a named variable that is a datetime to hold the value that is returned from one of these functions. There is an exception here as well. The time GMT offset function returns a number of seconds, which is the difference between time GMT and time local, with a return value with an integer data type. You still select datetime as your data type, This is how you get access to the functions, but when the variable condition creates your variable, it will create it with the integer data type. The data for a datetime variable contains several discrete components: year, month, day, hour, minutes, and seconds. The variable condition has the ability to extract this data, one piece at a time, from a datetime variable. Set the condition's data type to int and the operator to assign, and this is the key part, select a variable for the right-hand side that has a datetime data type. When you do this, the pick list for the left-hand side will now contain a list of functions for extracting various pieces of data from the datetime variable. You can use this to create named variables of type int that contains, for example, the current year, current month, day, and so on. Now that you have pieces of a datetime string as integers, what can you do with them? Well, you can use them to build datetime variables. Select the data type of datetime, the assignment operator, and on the right-hand side, instead of selecting a variable, type in a string that represents a datetime. This is the same format we saw on the previous slide: year, month, day, hour, minute, seconds. You don't need to enclose this string in quotation marks. ChartLogic will already treat this value as a string. Within this string, you can perform variable substitutions, like we have seen done in other places. Type in the name of the variable enclosed in % signs, and at runtime, ChartLogic will replace that name with the value found in the variable space with that name. For instance, you can create a variable of type int to represent a number of hours, and then substitute it in a date string to create a datetime variable that would match that number of hours. You need to create fully formed datetime strings with all of the components, but you can substitute any or all of them individually with named variables to suit your needs. The variable condition allows you to perform mathematical operations on values and variables. Select the appropriate data type for your operation, anything except Boolean, though of course it really doesn't make sense to perform mathematical operations on colors, strings, date times, but there's nothing preventing you from giving it a try. If you do come up with something useful this way, please let me know. Select the operator you want from the list. Some operators are binary, meaning they take both the right-hand side and the left-hand side values. If you select a binary operator and you only fill out one side of the equation, the condition will evaluate as false and return no value. Some operators are unary, meaning they only work with a single value. In this case, the left-hand side will be hidden, and you select a variable or type in a value on the right-hand side only. I don't think I need to explain what these operators are or how to use them, but if you have any questions, consult any elementary school mathematics textbook. The last item in the list there is not an operator per se. It's a way of getting market data from the terminal. The actual data type of the returned data will depend on what you select. Things like bid and ask are doubles with a precision of -1. Lot sizes and swap costs are doubles with a precision of 2. Digits and spread are integers. Time is the last known server time, the same as time current. There's a sample file available from the ChartLogic Files section of the website called Market Data Test. You can load this strategy and run it on any symbol and view it in the strategy viewer to see what the values are that are being returned for all of this data. It's a great way to test that things are working correctly and to see what data you're getting. Speaking of the strategy viewer, when you're viewing a running strategy and you have a variable condition displayed, you can find out more details about what the variable condition did on its previous cycle by hovering over the value cell in the list for that condition. It will show you the values that it obtained either from variables or functions, and there will be a code there that is a reference to the location in the code that performed this operation, like the 209 displayed in the image here. This reference is really only useful to me, but if you're having a problem with something that the variable condition is doing and you need some assistance from me, providing this code will help me narrow down the question you're asking and understand what's going on. It's also a great way to let me know that you've done your homework and you know what you're doing, which will help us move ahead quickly in resolving any problems you're having. This is the end of ChartLogic 104, Variable Conditions. There is an incredible amount of functionality built into this little dialog, and we are seeing the expressive capability of ChartLogic growing significantly with each lesson in the course. There's more to cover still, so stay tuned for the next lesson. Thank you for watching. Chart Logic is available in the MQL5 market. If you liked this video, please give it a like to let me know that this is the kind of content you're interested in. And if you're so inclined, you can subscribe and click the notification icon to be notified when I post new videos. Leave a comment below to let me know if I made any mistakes or if there are any features you would like to see in future versions.